Hey there, hi there, Taurus, and welcome to your shadow reading. It's me, Priscilla B. So, basically, this is like the Tarot of Dreams guidebook that I'm using for your reading, and what it is, or more so, what it does actually is help you understand what it is that your subconscious is trying to tell you. Okay, so it's much deeper than just dreams. It's more, shadow work is more about. I have a whole list really of what shadow work is, but here we go. I actually found my shadow work journal. Okay, the benefits of shadow work. Okay, acceptance, awakening, authenticity, creativity, compassion, courage, emotional freedom, empowering yourself, feeling a sense of purpose, heightened intuition, improved immune system, improved relationships, increased energy, seeing more clearly, and self-understanding. Okay, the shadow is the dark side of our personality because it consists chiefly of primitive, negative human emotions and impulses like rage, envy, greed, selfishness, desire, and the striving for power. Which is hilarious because, oh man, have I met some interesting characters that definitely have more of a dark side to them than anything else. But, you know, that's life. All we deny in ourselves, whatever we perceive as inferior, evil, or unacceptable, become part of the shadow. Anything incompatible with our chosen conscious attitude about ourselves regulates to this dark side. Okay. The personal shadow is the disowned self. This shadow self represents the parts of us we no longer claim to be our own, including inherent positive qualities. These unexamined or disowned parts of our personality don't go anywhere. Although we deny them in our attempt to cast them out, we don't get rid of them. We repress them. They are part of our unconscious. Think of the unconscious as everything we are not conscious of. We can't eliminate the shadow. It stays with us as our dark brother or sister. Trouble arises when we fail to see it. For then, to be sure, it is standing right behind us. Okay. So the 5 steps here for shadow work. Okay. Although every one is in a different place. Okay. So there's no definitive step-by-step guide on how to heal and do shadow work. However, there are a few steps we can help, which are: number 1, discover who you are and where you are. Number 2, link your emotions and how you feel. Number 3, connect the emotions to events or patterns. Number 4, reflect and understand these feelings. And number 5, create a new direction or patterns. Okay, so that's kind of what we're really like trying to do here. Okay. Also, shadow self emotions, although everyone is different and there's not a definitive step-by-step guide on how to heal and how to do shadow work. However, there are a few steps that can help, which are anger, resentment, jealousy, sadness, anxiety, fear, shame, disgust, deflection, and loneliness. Okay, so that's just like a brief summary of what shadow work is. But now getting into the story part of this reading. Okay, the first card of this story. Okay, and this card is a microism of the reading as a whole. Okay, the remaining cards are the rest of the story and serve to amplify and expand upon themes found in the first card. Okay, so hold on, let me shuffle these because I haven't shuffled these recently. Shuffle these up. All right, because there's a lot of like egocentric people that don't do their shadow work, and then they end up operating from this like dark side, from this dark energy. Okay, all right, yeah, we have here the Queen of Wands. Okay, so that's a much more like, you're much more in tune with your creative side. You're much more passionate about creating. And that's a good thing, because that's a great way to channel some of this energy that you've been feeling lately, as if like, you want to tell someone off, but, they're like, well, if you do that, then, they're going to like be like an evil person in your life, even though they're already being like that. They're like at level 1 of being like, you know, this dark side, the villain, right? But then if you move into like level 2, level 3, level 4, you're finding out that like, wow, this person like actively wants to try to make my life a living hell. You know what I'm saying? And you're just like, yeah. Like, you know, this is really boring. But anyways, so we have this position 1, the story. This card provides an overview of the chapter of the story that you are presently living. So the Queen of Wands, you know, you're not going to just like not, you know, step into that, you know, strong personality that you have, you know. There's also this thing where, you want to keep some of your stuff private for a reason, you know. You don't need to be telling everybody your business. But then there are just certain people that want to be in your private life and they want to insert themselves into your business. And it's not polite, and it's really just, you know, annoying and immature, but like that's how they are though. So basically the best way to get through this, queens are feeling. The Queen of Wands suggests that you pursue your goals by following your heart. If things look bleak, but your heart tells you to keep going, then keep going. Stay loyal to your own intuitions, okay? And then the stage of development here is that somebody keeps trying to put you like on the back burner, you know, like you're not like a priority, you know, your feelings aren't being met as like a priority. But the thing here is that you can, you know, access your future here, okay? And that means that you're not gonna like let what current energies are affecting you you're not going to bring them into your future, because it's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. So instead, you're just going to focus on like the here and the now, what you can focus on. Now we have the number 2 card. What you think. This card describes your conscious mind or your ego, what it thinks about the story and what it thinks the story is in the final analysis. So like a sneak peek of the energy that you're bringing to the future. And we have the Emperor card. Okay. So you're bringing this leadership role with you wherever you go, right? And I feel like you've kind of dabbled in this before. You know, you've been in this before where, you know, you bring something up and it's met with like, you know, dismissal or like, pretty much like a like non-regulated like emotions, you know. So when that happens, you're unconscious, even though you can't like know what it's really trying to tell you. You're obviously aware that you're not trying to like get into a discussion with someone who is like obviously inferior to you, and yeah, like, you know, you're operating from a place where you're bringing like normal, natural concerns and like engagement, and they are more of like the approach of like, oh, I'm an authoritarian like dictator, you know what I'm saying? And that's pretty common these days, especially with like distorted masculine energy, because you know, with what's going on in society and politics today, of course, the distorted masculine energy is going to try to attach itself to a divine feminine energy and try to make it distorted as well, and try to distort it as much as possible. Okay, so that's why you might be experiencing dreams where you're like in a circus and you're not like part of the circus, but you're like watching it. You are the audience member and you're watching these people just like act like fools and like make fools of themselves. And while like in a conscious level of thinking and reality, that would be entertaining and that would be cool. But when it's like people doing this with their like shadow energy and they're not using it for good and they're not harnessing it into good, then you're like, wow, like like, oh my god, this is hilarious. Because you have to admit to yourself that like there's a landscape here that when you look through it, you can see all this organization and all this structure. But that's your perception, right? That's you seeing things as you would like them to be ordered, as you would like them to be organized. well as these other energies that are coming in that are more, volatile, okay, they're not going to see things that way, right? They're going to seek control and power over your own feelings, okay? That's how it is. So the Aries in the sign pioneers who ventures into untamed territory in order to impose civilization and structure, okay? So, you can bring in like some good knowledge, some good information, but usually when it comes from like the mouth of like a divine feminine, these distorted masculines aren't going to listen because they're distorted. They haven't done the shadow work, okay? They're lazy when it comes to that. So you knowing your own inner strength and your own familiarity with like the divine masculine energy and the divine feminine energies, then you can discern for yourself whether or not you're going to actually like be a part of whatever like energy battle they're putting off. You're like, no, boring, waste of time. So basically here we move into position 3, what you get. And this describes the physical circumstances in which you will find yourself if your story continues on its present path. Okay, so we have here the 3 of coins. Okay, so you obviously here are like very hard at work. There's some Capricorn energy here, and you are definitely putting in this effort and energy to create something here. Okay, that's gonna help you succeed and help you get to where you need to go. And it's building basically you're building like a civilization in your own subconscious and shadow work energy, like a world where your shadow energy can move freely without fear of judgment or without fear of someone trying to control you. And it's being channeled into this like more of a creative, passionate energy where you're trying to build something stable, which is like really hard to do because shadow work is, notoriously when used in the wrong way will become something destructive, okay? And it won't be something where, you're creating a compassionate, authentic, creative, environment anymore. Now you're being told, well, you and your comfortability are not a priority. And that is someone who is obviously like not just trying to attack your autonomy, but they're also trying to attack your psyche. Okay, they're trying to tell you how you're supposed to feel or how you're supposed to act. When really it's like we can see somebody act a certain way and not like it, but our better selves, our higher consciousness knows to be like, I'm gonna walk away now because like this energy is yucky. But this energy is not good for you, okay, Taurus? So that's why being like this more stronger, powerful energy source of Emperor energy and Queen of Wands energy, you walk away. And by walking away, you automatically create like this 3 of Coins energy. And it looks like this man is creating like these 3 like portals, or, he's creating a better environment, a better outcome, a better strategy. Okay. And it's also a very grounded energy because Capricorns are very grounded. We stay true to what is reality, right? And when we meet someone who is trying to distort our reality and our perception, we're like, okay. And then we find a way to eliminate. That is our role. Okay. But Taurus, yeah, you might have some Capricorn in your chart. Or you might know a Capricorn or two that is definitely, has this like, really basically like not going to put up with any bullshit type of energy. And especially when it's coming from like distorted masculine energy. So, attaining mastery and knowledge of a particular field, the act of creation, making something refined out of rough raw materials. Yeah, so basically, you're taking pride in your work and your knowledge is being transferred into a new generation. So this means you could be starting a family. This means you could be passing on your knowledge of like survival and how things work, okay, to other future generations. But the feeling here and the vibe here is that there are going to be certain people in certain generations that are going to be stuck in this mindset where like they know everything, you know, and they're not willing to learn anything new, and they're willing to create more problems for the younger generations. And you're going to be one of those voices of reason that's like, no. I don't think so. But nice try. A for effort. No, but you have the power, Mars, to harness Capricorn transformative energies like the fire in the craftsman's kiln to give shape to refined creations. Okay, so that's what you're doing here. And yeah, it is going to be like raw materials because you're dealing with something here that hasn't been done before, you know, and you're dealing with something where people in your position in the past, Taurus, this could be work related, this could be relationship related, but either way though, it could be also like ancestral, like you know, like family curses and breaking family like karmic curses and stuff like that, like poverty, or you know, there's a long list of them really, but like one of the top ones that comes to mind for me is like this sense of like your ancestors before you didn't really set up their next generation for financial success. They kind of were just like, oh, you can go out in the world, you can figure it out for yourself. But that really that doesn't help, you know, but that's still something that happens. But you are setting yourself up where if you do end up having your own kids, you're like, I'm not going to do that to my kids. I'm not going to just kick them out and tell them, go survive, have fun with that. You know, good luck to you. And you're also not going to like cower away and like not take what they're going through seriously either, because if they are going through a serious hardship, you know, mentally, physically, financially, whatever it is, you are going to be the one that steps up and takes it seriously and tries to like course correct, I want to say. Okay. And that comes from a very like deep spiritual understanding of that we're all like these souls on planet Earth just trying to survive. And it isn't until other people come into our life for good that we learn more about hope. We learn more about having faith. We learn more about believing in ourselves and supporting one another. And that builds a sense of collaboration and community around each other. But there are going to be people that come in that are like, oh, I see Taurus struggling over here, I'm just going to point a finger and laugh. Or I see Taurus struggling over here, I'm just going to walk away because this is too many emotions for me. Those people haven't done their shadow work. Those people are not, their psyche hasn't like developed into a higher state of consciousness. It's sad, but true. And we can just be like, well, you'll figure it out. I'm sure you'll get it. You know what I'm saying? It's just not our job and responsibility to care about these people when like they're not our kids and they're not like people that are having injustices be done to them. Okay, these are grown-ass people that are making bad choices and are like trying to scapegoat you, for example, Taurus. Okay, so what you feel, okay, this is going to explore your emotional roots and foundations of your present circumstance. This is where you'll find hidden emotional motivations. So this is really where your unconscious is coming in to try to like, you're probably like subconsciously getting some sort of idea of what it is, but you're not like fully there yet. Okay, yep, Ace of Cups. Yeah, your unconscious is trying to let you know that you have an emotional abundance here when it comes to feeling of positivity, feelings of love and hope. Okay, so Ace of Cups. Yeah, and I feel like you haven't, like, maybe you've been here before, but I feel like for you, Taurus, it feels like sort of, this is like a aha moment. This is a reminder that like you have to be able to give yourself this emotional support that you need when you're going through hard times, especially since you've been around people who are like emotionally unavailable, you know. So a new emotion or relationship surfaces, the potentials and opportunities that such emotions can bring us, a gift of goodwill in the middle of conflict. An elaborately designed cup is seen floating on an endless expanse of water. The cup is composed of 4 golden mermaids who support the crystal bowl. A metallic ball bearing the elemental sign of water floats in the sky like a sun. In the Ace of Cups, we are presented with a gift from the subconscious, like a cup being handed to us. The cup may contain love, happiness, jealousy, fear, even hate. We generally can't stop ourselves from feeling an emotion, but we certainly have something to say about how we will act or react, and how we see ourselves as a result of the emotion. The rest of the cards in the suit of cups describes these different ways of responding to the gift handed to us in the ace. In the reading, the Ace of Cups tells us that we are about to experience the beginning of a new emotion or relationship. It also stands for the potentials and opportunities that emotional considerations can give us. If we are in conflict with someone, the Ace of Cups tells us that goodwill can always prevail. We do not have to search for it. It is always there, an inexhaustible supply waiting for us to take the cup of loving kindness. All right, so that comes in like the perfect timing here, because based on your journey so far, you're like, I'm not going to like just sidebar my feelings, but I'm also not going to express them in a way where I'm like actively trying to destroy someone else's life. Like, I'm just going to quietly work on myself, because that's really like the Ace of Cups isn't like this, like, it's not supposed to deliver a cup of like, okay, now like go and hurt everybody around you, go hurt innocent lives. That should not have anything to do with this. The Ace of Cups is coming in to say like, having like a fear or having someone hate you, like, it's sort of like a wake-up call to considering the fact that maybe it's time, like the universe is sending you a message telling you it's time for you to start taking care of yourself, because clearly this energy that's presenting hate towards you, presenting jealousy towards you, presenting fear towards you, and destruction towards you, is not a cup you want to drink out of, right? It's like a cup of poison, basically. So no one wants to drink poison. So that's why you're like, you're going to go pour your own drink in your own cup, because someone else, is not doing that. In fact, they're actually like actively trying to poison you. Okay. And I mean that in like a metaphorical sense. They're just trying to poison you with their own inability to do their shadow work, their own inability to say it's not Taurus's fault that I'm having a bad day, but then project it onto Taurus anyway. Okay. So that's where, you have to start really focusing in on doing your own shadow work. And that's why journaling is so important, because, all right, so now we're going into the what you deserve. Okay, this card shows what you expect on an emotional level. Okay, so, okay, yeah. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, so we have here the Sun card, okay? So you definitely deserve like warmth and heat here. That could be like literal or that could be metaphorical. Take it as it resonates. I know that like there's a lot of like snowstorms and like cold temps right now. It's winter. But there's also like this sense that it's kind of like almost it's almost ironic, because like you're like, I know what I deserve, okay, but like there's people around you that want to make you feel like you don't deserve just like basic needs and requirements, like they're like, well, there's an exception, I'm the exception, like I need this and this, and it's like, well, that's nice, but like I don't know what to tell you. These people like just don't do their shadow work. It's pretty much like the only answer I have for that. They just like don't acknowledge that that's even a thing. They don't believe in working on their psychology of their minds, or their spiritual journeys. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so the Sun: awareness, consciousness, reason and order, confidence, optimism, and intelligence. Oh my gosh, this pretty much, you deserve people with intelligence, okay? Taurus, I feel like you're surrounded by people who like lack intelligence like all the time. Like, I feel like people are like trying to like sort of like almost like invite you in to like calling them out on their BS, you know, like Chef Ramsay Kitchen Nightmares. Like, you know, he gets invited into the restaurant to help them. And then as soon as he starts helping them and telling them, like, look, this is not how you run a restaurant, they get mad at him. But it's like, yeah, but like, this is how you run a restaurant. Okay. So, Taurus, you might not be like literally trying to run a restaurant here or know someone trying to run a restaurant, but like, you are someone who like has experience taking care of a certain environment and certain people in that environment, and that has made you like a professional in what you do. Okay. So I know, you know, that take that as it resonates, Taurus, because I know that a lot of people these days, especially distorted masculine energies and distorted feminine energies too, will try to say like what you do is not important, Taurus, or it's irrelevant, or like you shouldn't be treated with any respect because of what you do. Okay. That is really messed up. And these people are obviously not intelligent, and you don't deserve that. Okay. You also deserve to be around people who are not going to project their negativity onto you, and you're going to be filled with, you know, optimism and positivity. Okay. So the inner self, which is the past, appeared, and its dimly perceived moon now glows with the incandescent power of the sun. Okay, so this is definitely a more sophisticated energy, going from like, you know, people are going to label you, Taurus, or try to label you, Taurus, in the way that they've interpreted someone in your role or in your position. Okay, but you don't need to let how they label you affect your life and affect the choices that you make for your own happiness. Okay, the sun is not an energy that's like, oh yeah, you're an idiot, sure, just do your stupid idiot stuff and I'll just deal with it. Like, no. Okay, the sun energy is very like, that's not okay, and we're not going to do that, and we're going to change things and make things more you know, reasonable and orderly. And you're going to be met with a lot of conflict because of this, Taurus. I know it sucks to hear that, but that is the truth. It's because you're not operating from a place where, you know, you're lacking an intelligent mindset. Okay. You're operating from a place where you've experienced these things before, and you're bringing reason and rationality to a certain situation or challenge, and other people are just like, no, we're going to just be stupid. And you're like, okay, then I'm out of here. You know, that's what Chef Ramsay does. He doesn't stay and just keep watching the shit show. He walks away. Okay, and then they always beg him to come back, you know? It's pretty hilarious. But, yeah, I mean, the astrology here is the sun is heavenly body of self-esteem and self-integration, okay? The Hebrew letter resh means front of the head or face. Things that face the back of the head are hidden and out of sight. Things that face the front of the head, the face, are in full view, and we can be fully aware of them, while the moon is historic, available only to be initiated. The sun is knowledge and awareness available to all. Okay, so not everyone is initiated into this moon energy, which is, you know, coming from a place of intuitiveness, okay, and coming from a place of like, you know, tapping more into your like psychic awareness and abilities. That's a whole nother, that's like once you've done so much shadow work, you can't even like think anymore. All of a sudden, you're initiated, basically, I feel like. But the sun energy is like, you don't need to be psychic to read the room. Like, hello, you know, you don't need to be, you know, I don't know, a millionaire to understand basic budgeting skills, okay? But the thing is, other people do not understand this concept. So they operate from a level of, you know, just misguidedness, really, you know, and lower energy, okay? The sun card here is quite different from the mental constructs that have been represented in previous cards by machinery and architecture. The order and reason shown in the sun are built upon the hard-won, unshakable connection between the fool's conscious mind and his inner self, which he formed by virtue of his experiences in the previous cards. Okay? There is structural sound awareness that is given to you on your journey here. There's a deep-rooted confidence. There's optimism. Okay? These are all elements really here with this sun energy that you are able to harness and use to get through these difficult times when you're met with challenges and situations that, you know, the universe is like, I just want you to be aware of how stupid these people are. And you're like, okay, got it, thanks, right? And then you can be like, wow, why was I, thinking that this person might be helpful? Why was I thinking that this person, it's more about like how you as a person are like willing to give people the chance to prove themselves. And if they don't, then, you go to the next thing or whatever. Okay. So that's how it operates. Now, King of Cups, okay, so this is what you tell. This shows how you present yourself to others and how you express yourself. Okay, so I'm actually glad this I'm actually glad this card came up for you with this King of Cups energy, because he's really holding on to the Ace of Cups. He's mastered that ability to harness in that energy and translate that into the work he does. And he's a mentor too. And he's also like, one of those people, what are they called? A mediator. Okay. So when he sees two people having a conflict, like he comes in and he tries to like balance out the conflict and be like, okay, things aren't working right now, so let's try this technique instead, and it's not so anyone can feel like their feelings don't matter. It's just to like make sure that things don't get like too crazy, but there aren't a whole lot of these King of Cups, that I'm feeling that are surrounding you right now. Okay. There's not a lot of people operating from this place right now. Okay. Taurus. It doesn't mean that you don't have good mentorship or leaders out in the world, but it does mean that sometimes we have to be like our own mentor. We have to be our own leader, because we might not always have that mentor or leader standing next to us. We might not always have that supporter that's in the room with us saying, okay, I got your back, Taurus. Sometimes we're just standing there in a room by ourselves, surrounded by a bunch of donkeys, and we're just like, okay, so this is how the morning's gonna go, but you yourself have to just know that like you don't have to make yourself available to those people. You know what I'm saying? And they definitely should not be projecting things onto you, but when they don't have intelligence, that's what happens. Okay, so we have the King of Cups here. So let's see, King of Cups. So, yeah, the stage of development here. An emotional matter has reached a stage where it is ready to manifest itself as a relationship or a development in a relationship. You are ready to communicate something that you feel. You are mature enough to counsel or help mediate others. Okay, so take charge of your emotional life. Okay, take your life, Taurus, back into your hands. Okay, don't be afraid to communicate your feelings or offer advice to others in need. Okay, and the King has a full understanding of the non-rational and non-linear patterns of emotional life, yet desires to use this understanding to help society in general. Okay, so that is the thing here, Taurus, is like you want to like put your energy where it's to good use. You want to put your energy to where people are like respectful and honest and like decent. You don't really want to be investing your hard work, and you don't really want to be investing your abilities and your skills and your advice and your words and your feelings and all the stuff that makes you you, Taurus. You really do not want to be wasting that on people who like could care less, like people who like see that like, okay, well, you don't offer anything because of this reason, or you don't offer anything because of this reason. And you're like, well, okay. And then you're going to just go and take your beautiful soul and head out to a new path, a new direction. Okay. Because it's when you're thinking from like a spiritual perspective on shadow work, you know, people who can match you at your level aren't going to be constantly trying to, you know, create a state of fear or create a panic or create this like environment where you can't even sit down and like enjoy a cup of coffee without somebody shouting in your face. Okay. Like that's unacceptable. Okay. So there are environments where you don't have to feel that way or you don't have to be in that position. Okay. But that's the whole point of the shadow work, is to realize what is happening and what you can do about it. Okay. And there are going to be non-rational people. There are going to be linear patterns of emotional life. Okay. And you understand that, but like at some point it's like, you have to draw the line somewhere. You know, you can only like help somebody so much, or you can only be doing so much before someone is like crossing those lines and like entering into a state of like actively trying to like cause destruction and actively trying to like destroy the stability that you built for yourself, and also act like you haven't done anything at all. Yeah, there are those people. There are delusional people. There are. But you yourself cannot like fall into that trap of believing their delusions. Okay. And that's the key to success in life. That's how I am now, 33 years old. Because I didn't believe the delusional people that were trying to lie to me and trick me. So I'm living proof. Okay. Now we have here what you are, the parts of yourself that have been determined by the physical circumstances of your upbringing. Okay, so this is where things get really interesting, because you were raised a certain way. We were all raised a certain way. Yeah, we might share common, similar upbringings with other various people in the world, you know, but overall, though, it's like they were never your mom and dad, right? They were never your parents. They were never your caregivers, right? So you had your own individual caregivers. And I say that because not every parent is a caregiver. But there are some that are, obviously. You know, there are some that do the best they can, right? And there are some that don't do the best they can. All right. But the point here is that we all have our individual journey with like how we grew up and how we were taught to coexist and live with other people, other humans, right? And how to deal with stressful situations. And I feel like, you know, I know personally that I was never introduced to like shadow work. I was never introduced to psychology or consciousness. That was never a topic of conversation in the household I grew up in, right? But I will tell you this, Taurus, faith. I feel like this was a huge part of your upbringing, okay? There's different, you know, spiritual practices here, or you can interpret it as a religion, okay? But either way, there was definitely this emphasis on spiritualism, and I feel like religion really tips the scale more towards like, you know, being like having like more of a fear-based attitude about spiritual practices. Like if you absolutely do not do exactly the spiritual practices that you're supposed to do, then you'll like, you know, burn in hell for all eternity, that type of thing. Okay, so there's a lot of that I feel like you had to deal with, Taurus, growing up. Or like sexuality, I feel like was a huge one. Like you grew up in a household where like, you know, divine feminine energy was just not a thing, you know, divine masculine energy was just not a thing. You talked about, you didn't even know what that was. So you saw, you know, men, for example, acting, behaving a certain way, and you're like, okay, that's how a man is supposed to act and behave. Or you saw a woman acting a certain way, and you're like, okay, that's how a woman is supposed to act and behave. And sometimes the man would act like a dumbass. Sometimes a woman would act like a dumbass. And you would ask yourself, what is that? You know, why are they doing that? You know, and understanding that more. Okay, so faith here, let's get into this faith energy. So faith here, believing deeply in something, finding meaning above and beyond the material world. Ethics and morality, philosophy, religious teachings and traditions. A conceptual framework against which things can be placed in context. Okay, so ethics and morality and philosophy, okay, these are concepts, I feel like, that you just completely, like, were not even, like, informed of, like, in a, like, technical sense. It was more of like, okay, don't do that, it's wrong, or don't do that, or, oh, you got an A on your test, you did great. It's like, I feel like there were more conversations about, like, if you did something bad, like bad, right? As like a kid, the reaction was like so severe, right? Like the masculine or the feminine in your life were like completely like just over the top, like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever, right? Whereas like you yourself, Taurus, are more like, okay, I'm seeing a challenge coming my way. I'm seeing a situation coming my way. Well, there's something that can be done about this, right? You know, it's like, if you don't get an A on your homework, that's okay. If you get an F on your homework, that's okay. How can we like encourage to keep getting the A's, or how can we help the kid who's getting F's? You know what I'm saying? So like there was like that sense of like more of like not punishing someone for getting, you know, a bad grade, and not like freaking out and like making it like, okay, if you're getting good grades, like, okay, now you always have to get good grades. You know what I'm saying? It's like, just let things naturally take their course. Let things naturally develop. And yes, there's some coaching that can, you know, go in, like, I think it's called like self parenting or something, like there's a term for it. But there's definitely, with you, it was more of like, okay, there's this need to like practice religious beliefs and techniques in life. You know, like, I know in like Christian religion, it's like the man of the house, he has to say so, he's the one in charge. And for you, Taurus, it's like, I don't care if you're a guy or a girl, I don't care. We all respect one another, and we all find our balance and our harmony, you know? It's not a dictatorship, you know? Easier said than done, but that's how it is for you. Okay. So we have here the Taurus sign. This is your sign. Okay. Creating practical, conservative routines. This relates to aspects of faith and deal with creating and then remaining faithful to frameworks and structures of meaning. Okay. So you're taking away this, like, okay, let's live in a constant state of fear and panic, to more of like, all right, we're going to create practical routines. We're going to create conservative routines. Okay. And we're going to create our own like rituals, our own way of living that we all benefit from, that we all find sustainability. Okay. That's like working together in harmony. Okay. But you're also dealing with, like, you know, other people trying to like insert their power of their own belief systems into your life. Okay. Because that's kind of like what you grew up with. So now you're seeing that play out now as an adult, where adults try to like insert their power over other adults, right? Through financial means, for example, is a good one. Or mental is another one. Emotional. Okay, what you need. This card shows what you feel you need to be happy on a physical level. In other words, what level of physical comfort or security you need, or what level of risk. Okay. Oh, we got the Palace of Cups. Nice. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so if you need the Palace of Cups, obviously you're like, I don't want to deal with anybody who like can't do their own shadow work, and they can't confront their own demons and their own bullshit. Okay, so the Palace of Cups is like the perfect way to go, the perfect place to go. Okay. That's again talking about like your environment too. There's like this huge emphasis, Taurus, on like feeling safe and protected in your environment, and how these like outer attacks from delusional idiots are trying to present problems for you in your Palace of Cups. Okay, that's where the risk is when you are like, okay, I'm gonna like have my palace here. Okay, and then someone's like, oh, no, you try to have your palace there, but I'm gonna tell you exactly like how your palace is gonna be. And you're like, it's not your palace though. Like, it's mine. Like, you know what I'm saying? So there's a little bit of that going on, but you know, defending your space, defending your environment where you live, is definitely something that, you know, is definitely a struggle, because it seems like that seems to be the major like lesson, or like karmic lesson, that comes around like ever so often. Like every new chapter in your story, Taurus, is like, okay, who is trying to make me not feel comfortable in my space right now, you know? And that's a constant theme, Taurus. And that's because these other people, they don't sit down and they don't do the shadow work, okay? They don't contemplate, wow, how can I improve on some of these things that I've done that weren't really working out for me? I wasn't building long lasting connections. I wasn't building really like authentic relationships. I wasn't building friendships. I wasn't building, you know, a loving, beautiful, healthy connection. I was constantly trying to distort it to fit my own selfish desires. And that goes with like everything, you know, that goes throughout hand in hand with life. It's like you are going to constantly come across people like that. You are going to constantly experience those experiences, Taurus, because that is the beauty of life. The thing is, for you though, it's like there's a certain level of, okay, these are like basic needs and requirements, like, you know, stability, you know, safe environment, that sort of thing. And then when that gets jeopardized, you know, obviously you're like, okay, well, now it's time to like put up the defenses, and now it's time to like call in for help, because you're not feeling safe in your own environment anymore. Okay. And the reason for that too is because these other distorted energies, they actively seek out ways to destroy other people, because they're so bored that they have nothing better to do than to actively seek out you, for example, Taurus, and try to destroy your life. And that's happening on a much larger scale. And you are experiencing that energy on maybe like a smaller scale, because it's like, you know, you're sitting at home and then someone comes into your home who you want to trust and you want to believe has your best interests. You're paying for that service, but that service is not being met. The service is not being, you know, the money you're paying is being wasted on idiots. But like you still have to like be like, okay, well, how can I navigate to a better environment? How can I navigate to a place of safety and security? You might not like physically be able to go there, because shadow work isn't always about the physical. It's about this under the surface. Okay, it's about diving deep into the waters. Okay, so that's your Palace of Cups. That's your safe space. Okay, they can't control your mind. You know, they can't tell you how you're supposed to feel. They can't tell you how you're supposed to live your life. That's up to you. And a lot of people don't like that. You know, a lot of people do want to control other people. Okay, Palace of Coins. The other palaces are fun places to visit, but the Palace of Coins is where we live. Here is where we feel safe and secure, where we can tend to our earthly needs, where we can be kings and queens of our own castle. Here also we can experience the four elemental energies as fully human attributes. The intellectual owl. Oh wait, this is the Palace of Coins. But how did I end up on there? Okay. Well, you know what? Maybe I was meant to read two cards for you. Here, look, Palace of Coins. I feel like this is, you know, like when you're in the Palace of Cups, that's more of like your spiritual subconscious. And then the Palace of Coins is like your spiritual conscious. So it's like the outward appearance. Yeah, that probably makes more sense. There's even the Palace of Wands too. Okay. So yeah, so you have these like spirit guides here though. You have the deer, the owl, and the frog and the mouse. Okay, so the mundane mouse, the moody frog, the intellectual owl, and then just the deer. Okay, so this makes sense. So you're like really dealing with like these like spirit animals show you like this sense of like spirituality of like different developmental stages, I feel like, and what you're kind of dealing with right now. And then if you go to like, this is going to be, but basically this is your home. Okay, this is where you've been always waiting when you need a rest from the journey. Okay, so like when you're done doing your shadow work, this is where you want to go. Like, you know, okay, let's see, the Palace of Cups. Okay. Palace of Cups. Palace of Cups. Where's the cups? Oh, here we go. Okay. So the Palace of Cups, this is going to be more about like, yeah. So this is a cool, serene environment where subtle moods can be explored. The plants on the seafloor represent mysterious processes in our subconscious, which can only be revealed in quiet and gentle circumstances. And that's the thing, is like you, Taurus, want to be in a gentle, calm, quiet environment. But then there's like the chaos circus, like there's the like, you know, chaos clowns, like they just come in and they're like, oh wow, who feels like having a shit day today? And you're just like, no one. Why are you even doing that? Like no one needs that energy right now, bruh. But there it is. So yeah. The jellyfish indicate messages and dreams which slowly rise from the ocean depths. Knights of Cups stand guard to protect the vulnerable. Delicately formed flora and fauna. Yeah, and the flora and fauna are like the male, female, like energies there. Okay, so that's the thing, is like you really are like, okay, dreaming, slowly rising from the ocean depths, like calm, chill, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to go up to the surface now, Palace of Coins, and then it's like you're met with a lot of like bitter people that are trying to get into your palace, and you're like, get out of my palace. Like, leave me alone. Like, you're annoying. Like, you're not a calm, cool, collected energy, you know, because that's the only way you're going to feel safe, Taurus, is if you're around people who are able to create safety within themselves and security within themselves, because they've done the shadow work. If they haven't done the shadow work, then they don't know how to regulate themselves. They don't know how to calm themselves. They don't know how to operate around another calm, collected person. You could have a twister happening. You could have furniture flying all around you. And there you are, Taurus, just standing still or sitting still, right? Just chilling out, knowing that it's like, you can't control the twister. You can't control the tornado, right? But you can control yourself. And you don't want to be around people who like symbolize these twistery tornado, you know, chaotic, crazy energies. Like, you don't want to be around people like that. No one wants to be in a tornado. That don't make no sense. Like, oh my God, it's so annoying how people think that's cool and it's not. Okay. So that's where that level of risk is coming in, is because like we have a home, we build a home for ourselves, and then a tornado can come in. Now you can't control an actual literal tornado. Like, you can get warnings and you can go in your basement and, you know, hope and pray you survive, okay, by miracle, but you can't really like allow yourself to be around people who act like tornadoes, okay? Like, you know, easier said than done, right? But there are steps you can take so that you're like prepared to deal with it, or you teach yourself how to deal with it without letting it sweep you away. Because then we're going to be going to the, you know, we're going to be in the Wizard of Oz there, okay? So we're not doing that. We're not going there today. What you expect. This shows what your conscious mind or ego expects for the future, okay? So, wow, yeah, wow, yep, yep, okay. Okay, so we have here the World card, okay? So this is what you expect for your future, your ego, okay? Woo, this is flying off. Okay, so, all right, we got the World card. Let's see here, World card. What is the message? Okay. All right, so the world, enlightenment, attainment, completion, but at the same time, a new beginning, seeing things as they really are. Something that had seemed silly is now seen as profound, being inured to life's inequities, dancing on your limitations, okay? So this is you at your final journey's end, okay? And the state of ultimate enlightenment that you have attained is of course unimaginable for us mortals. It can, however, serve as a symbol for the accomplishment, okay, and awareness we experience in our lives, okay? But it is fleeting, okay? It doesn't stay like this forever, and that's why we experience these like metaphorical storms, okay? You know, there's all kinds of, you know, natural disasters and things like that, okay? But the point of this is not to like be like, okay, how can I control a natural disaster? That doesn't make any sense. But what you can do is prepare for it. You can train yourself to get ready, okay? And there are going to be a lot of really dumb people that don't want to prepare for it, or they don't care about it, or they don't want to take it seriously because they don't have intelligence. But if you are not going to, you know, be able to get through to them, just, you know, you don't need to worry about that. Like, just walk away. Honestly, walk away from that. Don't waste your energy with that, okay? As the final card in the sequence, it naturally signifies endings and completions, okay? All right, so basically, the ending, the completion here. So, you know, what had seemed to be ridiculous in the beginning, you know, like believing that, like, you could ever, like, just step into your power and just realize that, like, not everyone is going to agree with you, Taurus, because they're stupid. No, but not everyone's going to be on the same wavelength as you, Taurus. And, you know, you still, and obviously they're going to say you're the ridiculous one, right? Because that's just like cop out. But really what you're doing here is you're flourishing, okay? You're seeing the magician energy reveal surprises and wonder and miracles, okay? What's once seemed like empty promises, the potential for fulfillment was of course present from the very beginning. But without the experiences of the intervening cards, we were unable to see it. So without, you know, you started off this reading thinking, oh my God, like, when is the universe going to be like, okay, don't worry, Taurus, like, I know you're under attack right now, but things are going to get better. This is now, it's getting better now because you're realizing that you have to, you know, love yourself and take care of yourself, especially in the times when, you know, you're being surrounded by people who don't want to be responsible and they don't want to take life seriously, okay? The potential for fulfillment was, of course, present from the very beginning, but without the experiences of the intervening cards, we were unable to see it. And it was those very experiences that enabled the fool to produce the proverbial rabbit from out of the hat. Okay, follow the white rabbit, right? The earth, which of the fool had held in his hand, encased in a crystal globe, has grown huge and now holds the fool within it, and is itself held secure by the golden frame. In the four corners of the card, we see the four elements: fire, earth, water, and air. These are the same four elements symbolized by the wand, coin, cup, and sword that appear on the magician card. And that comprises the four suits of the minor arcana. Here we see the reality behind the symbols, or the symbols translated into the real life counterparts. Okay? Not everyone can see the symbols. Not everyone can understand that in order to be successful in life, in order to have these good, healthy connections and these good, you know, choices, okay, made, and you know, these promises of this better, brighter future, okay, you know, people have to really be willing to do their inner work and to do their shadow work and to really look themselves in the mirror and say, okay, I need to change this, or I need to fix this. Not to the point of like self-destruction, and not to the point of like adhering to other people's, you know, shallow point of view and perspectives of the world, you know, Taurus, but more of like an understanding of, okay, I'm not having too great of a day right now, but I'm not going to let that affect the healthy, strong relationships that I've already built for myself. I'm not going to blame people that aren't involved in my struggles, into my struggles with my inner self. This is talking about inner self here, okay? Because there are going to be times where people like don't feel good about themselves and then they blame you, Taurus. And it's like, if you just did the shadow work, you wouldn't feel that way. But okay, lazy, whatever. But here we have before enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. After enlightenment, still chop wood and carry water. People think that once they reach a certain level of success in life, they don't need to chop wood anymore. They don't need to carry water anymore. I was just dealing with this energy a little while ago. Somebody thinks that they've achieved this higher level of success in their life. You know, they're from a different generation and they think they don't need to chop wood and carry water anymore. And they're like, no, we can put that on the younger generation. They can suffer for it. And it's like, yeah, funny. If you think that's going to happen. But nice try. Nice try. I'll give you points for trying to, you know, be dumb. Good job on that. But you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you have to just keep moving forward, okay? That hard work and that discipline that you've built for yourself, it doesn't just stop once you've achieved a certain level of success. You keep working at it every single day, and then you'll see how it pays off, okay? All right, so yeah, this is a transformative circle that you've seen before, but here is another indication that enlightenment does not carry us to some cloud-covered Olympus, but instead simply return us to daily or earthly life. Same time, it reminds us of the visions of the Judgment card, which encourage us to enlarge our meaning of self beyond the individual to encompass the universal, okay? And Saturn is a planet of restriction. Tau means signature or seal. The universe bestows its diploma, signed, sealed, and delivered. Okay, so yeah, and you're on Earth here. Okay, like there are certain people that are gonna just like be like, oh no, I don't live on planet Earth. I can just act like, you know, I can make everybody's life a personal living hell. And it's like, back to reality, like reality check, okay? And that's where that Saturn energy is like really crucial and important. It's because it's restricting for a good reason. It's like, these are the rules and they're here to implement healthy, constructive ways of living. And there are going to be people who don't want to do that, obviously. And once you've said that like they need to stop doing that, that literally was all you had to do. That was just your only requirement. You know, that's the only, you know, teachable moment there that you had to do. And that's why you're getting bestowed this like diploma signed by the universe, because, you know, the universe wants you to feel acknowledged and heard and seen, and let you know that like, well, we can't give you like a physical piece of paper that says you're like the baddest, you know, Taurus there is, okay? But we can let you know that like, here are some examples of how you are seen and how you are perceived. And we're not going based off of the, you know, dumb, distorted ass people that don't want to do their shadow work and want to project all their BS onto you, Taurus. We're going based off of how you show up every single day for those that you love and care for deeply, and how you just don't give up on that. And there are going to be good days and there are going to be bad days, but the point is that you keep showing up and you keep trying. Whereas other people just want to quit after a week, quit after a day, quit after a year. And that's not coming from a place of like having a shitty job either. That's coming from a place of like spirituality. That's coming from a place of like choosing to show up for those people in your life that need you to show up, whether it's just a phone call or a text, or, you know, it's making s'mores, you know, like there are little things like that that actually go a big way. And that's how your life, I feel like how life is usually measured, by those small moments that everyone else who's delusional and shallow and materialistic just take for granted and think, well, if you're not bringing home a paycheck, you're worthless and you don't deserve respect. And you're like, I don't care, like how you view the value of a life. Okay. So yeah, now we have here, let's see here. I think I'm going to read you some affirmations, and we're going to go from there with these affirmations. Where's the affirmation cards? Okay, here they are. I'm going to give you some affirmation cards real quick. Oh, we have here alone time. Spend some time alone. It will help you gain clarity on your relationship. Sparks. Keep the sparks flying. Surprise each other with gestures of love. So if you're really interested in finding out more about like your soulmate energy, definitely go check out your soulmate reading. I posted them a while back, but it's still good. It's still relevant. Taurus. Move boldly into a golden future. Okay, there's another one for you. You got a guardian angel looking out for you. Okay, at this time, embrace who you are becoming. You are stronger than you feel. Those are two really good ones. Okay, rediscover what brings you joy. That's another really good one, especially when they're those people that come around and they're like zero fun. They're like zero positivity, and they're just like making threats, and they're just like projecting so much negativity, and you're just like, wow, okay, guess someone didn't do their shadow work today, but good for you. Let's nurture our love every step of the way. Okay? And with you, I feel protected and cherished. Okay? That's how you're supposed to feel around a soulmate. You know, you get to go to the Palace of Coins, you get to go to the Palace of Cups there. But each time you go to these like inner depths and inner energies, or even times where you go out consciously, and it's more like a material journey, you know, you're not feeling like, okay, time to attack Taurus, time to tell Taurus, like, okay, you're not safe here, you know, your security and where you live is in jeopardy. And it's like, get out of my face. Like, get out, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you're not wanted, you know? But again, you know, the emphasis of, you know, these people just really need to sit down and journal their feelings. They need to sit down and they need to meditate. They need to, you know, come to a conclusion in their life where they're like, okay, doing evil to someone else is not the best use of my shadow energy, you know? So, because shadow energy isn't supposed to be used for evil. It's not supposed to be used to hurt other people. But that is the world we live in today, is where if people don't learn how to cope with their own inner turmoil, then they project it onto other people. And that's why we see war. That's why we see ICE. That's why we see evil, corrupt politicians. That's why we see people, you know, disgusting, you know, men attacking women. Okay, because they never sat down and said, wow, I'm having these really bad thoughts. I need to check myself. They never did that. They just acted on those bad things. Okay, so that is my reading for you, Taurus. Love and light always. Close the door with grace. So that could definitely mean closing the door in someone's face. No, it's like, no, but like, you know, obviously like closing the door on, you know, those people that are just being like disturbing, negative, toxic ass energies. Okay. But anyways, yeah. All right. Love and light always, Taurus. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It would mean so much to me. I love making these videos. I love sharing my insights with you. So I really appreciate it. Thank you again and take care. Bye.